Yeah, I'm Natalia Koupanou. I'll talk to you today about how a feature store can make MLOps faster and easier for you. Yeah, I'm a data scientist. I've always been in data departments across various industries. Generally, I get a feeling of satisfaction by making things happen. I like finding ways to unlock value with data science. And I also like helping data teams to become more happy and more efficient. My educational background, I received both a bachelor's and a master's in engineering from Cambridge. My thesis was on augmented reality applications in construction. AR is trending now with metaverse, but that's a topic for another talk. Outside work, I guess you can call me a foodie or a traveler, classic millennial, I know. I like swimming and Pilates as form of exercise. And I do appreciate art and design. Okay, so what's the agenda looking like for today? I'll introduce to you Huge. We'll understand the value of MLOps, so why it is hard. And then we'll see how a feature store can make it easier for us. And towards the end, we can go through the pros and cons of buying versus building a feature store. So, who is Huge? We are a creative growth accelerator. We are working with many big clients across the globe, and we help them grow their brands and their businesses. And we're quite good at doing this because we're obsessed with outcomes. And you know what can bring big outcomes? Data and machine learning. Operational ML is when machine learning is used as part of your product or your business process. But where's the value? At Huge, we use machine learning in various different ways. I have some examples here. We use it to identify relevant audience and ways to engage with them. We use machine learning to evaluate and forecast brand performance, both in terms of financial terms and non-financial terms. We have also done some amazing job when it comes to social listening. So we decode emotions, interests, culture based on social media data. We have done some work on data-driven design. So for example, we have predicted the engagement for a particular experience or creative. And the last example that I have here is around trends analysis. So we detect cultural changes by identifying and classifying trends. So all these helped our clients to form and apply data-driven strategy and increase their marketing ROI. But let's look at how MLOps is more connected with machine learning value. So machine learning value is unlocked with maturity in MLOps. So say, for example, that you want to add recommendations in your website to increase your conversion. The easiest thing will be to start off with one-off recommendations, but then soon those recommendations will become irrelevant, and the next thing you can do is update those recommendations more frequently, like weekly. But still, the purpose or the reason that a visitor comes to your website might change depending on the day and so on. So being able to use the real-time interactions of your user and create recommendations on the fly is quite important. So we start with one-off predictions using, we started with one-off predictions using static data samples. Then we move to batch predictions, but we really get the most of machine learning when we can have real-time predictions that use both batch and stream data. So the more our infrastructure and our expertise in MLOps grow, the more our capabilities increase, and the more value as data scientists we can deliver to the business. So it's quite clear that users and businesses expect relevant, up-to-date predictions. And therefore, operational machine learning is very important for every business, especially in the digital space. However, for this reason, also at Huge, we took MLOps to the next level. So we are creating a live intelligent value engine that uses AI and machine learning and allows our clients to perform data-driven decisioning at scale in real time. However, if this was easy, we wouldn't have a two-day conference for MLOps. And I'm not the only one that says that MLOps is hard. A recent global survey done by McKinsey showed that only 36 of the participants had their ML project deployed beyond the pilot stage, and only 15% managed to automate machine learning at scale. So let's look at some of the reasons for these low success rates in machine learning operations. Well, firstly, a very common mistake that I see when I review code is data leakage. Calculating or finding the value of a feature at the time of the inference can be tricky. In addition to that, data scientists and ML engineers, not data engineers, might use different source codes to generate the features. So your training data set and your serving data might differ significantly. And then the result of this is that your model behaves in an unexpected way and incorrectly. So it takes you a lot of time during backtesting to figure out what's different between training and serving data. Another problem is reusability of features. It's not straightforward how to reuse features that another team has built or another individual has built. And the reason, for many companies, there isn't a centralized place to manage and serve features. This is a big problem when teams are also working in silos. So if you want to use many features for your model, it can become quite costly because you're building a lot of the infrastructure every time. Last but not least, we can't manage easily machine learning features and with the same reliability as we do with other production software. And even though the applications with real-time requirements are increasing, extracting data from multiple data sources can take time. So serving features with low latency in production can be really hard. I gave you a big hint at the beginning of my presentation about what can help with all of these challenges. So I'm not expecting you to look all surprised when I tell you that features can help with these challenges, because it is a fully managed and unified solution to share, Discord, and serve your features at scale across your whole organization. It uses a time series data model to store a series of values for your feature, and you'll understand now why this is quite important. So the value of a feature can change over time. For example, the number of items that a user has in their basket can change with time. So say that you want to predict whether a user will convert during a session or not. And we say that you have two labels at two different points in time, T1 and T2. Typically, the way that you request data from your feature store is by using an entity identifier. In this case, might be the user ID or the session ID. The feature names or the feature store name. We have some features here, number of items in baskets, number of searches, and so on. And the timestamps, so T1 and T2 here. The feature store now will return the latest stored value at or before this timestamp. So for T1, your feature vector will be 49 false, and for T2, your feature vector will be 22 true. In this way, essentially is a point in time lookup, and it guarantees that no information from the future is used to create a prediction during training. So we don't have to worry anymore about data leakage. Let's look at the next sort of like challenge that we mentioned before, training, serving, SKU. With the feature store, we use the same data sources and the same code, the same pipelines for both training and serving a model. So a benefit of a feature store is that it melts batch and stream data. So if your data changes, you can use a stream flow, but you still fetch your data from the same feature store, and there is consistency in the schema and the transformations that you use on raw data. So essentially, during both the development and the production phase, all features are fetched from the same feature store. And hopefully there are fewer surprises during backtesting with this way. Moving on to the next challenge that we mentioned about duplicated efforts for creating features. After you use feature store for several projects, you'll end up having some valuable, useful features that you can reuse in other applications. So you have a head start for creating an MVP or a POC, because part of your data set is already built. And it's quite logical that also the deployment time of your ML project goes down too, because some of the feature pipelines are already there. And there is also like a consistency in your architecture. So there are some repetitive steps between your applications. So the cost of your ML applications go down and is shared across multiple projects. On top of that, you break any silos that you might have in your organization by having a central repository to manage and serve your features. You can also apply different practices related to data catalog or lineage. For example, by adding metadata to each feature so that someone else from a different team who hasn't created the feature can feel confident about what this feature is about and so on, and can use it in their model. Yeah, moving on to the next challenge, which is actually a big one. It's looking at the latency constraints that we have in production. The way that feature store can help is essentially a feature store uses two storage methods, an offline storage and an online storage. You always have an offline storage, and you use that for training your model, but also for any offline predictions like batch predictions. When you need to have real-time predictions and you need to fetch your data in real time, you turn on your online storage. So instead of like querying data directly from a data warehouse or from multiple different other data sources, which can take a lot of time, like 20 seconds, which we know is not a good user experience, what you can do instead is fetch your data from your online store, which can be done within milliseconds. And depending on the computational resources that you choose, you can scale this as needed. So essentially, you code the logic to generate features, but you offload the task of serving features. On top of that, managing machine learning can be done in a reliable and easy way as other production software. So you can use version control. You can version control your codes that you use to create the feature store. So if needed, you can go back to a previous version. Another thing that's a little bit easier is data monitoring, drift monitoring. The feature store can track the distribution of your feature values imported. And lastly, cost management is also possible. You can set data retention limits, so you can basically set like an expiry date for each feature value, and it can be deleted automatically for you. And you can also set limits on your computational resources. For example, you can put like a quota on the number of online serving nodes, or the number of online serving requests per minute, and so on. To recap the benefits of feature store so that you all leave and you remember some of the stuff that I said very quickly. Data consistency across production and across development and production. Training and serving features are fetched from the same place, and with point-in-time lookup, it's also easy to understand the signals at different points in time. Also, the feature store is managed by one platform, the same repository, so it's quite easy to reuse the features and the data sources. Also, the costs of your ML applications go down, and you can deploy ML a lot faster. And lastly, we can manage ML features reliably and with ease, as we do with other production software, with versioning, monitoring, cost management. And of course, with the online storage as well, we can meet these low latency requirements that we have for a lot of applications, and depending on the cluster settings that we choose and so on, we can deliver predictions at scale quite fast. So hopefully I made you curious about feature stores, and you might want to look into them a bit more. If not, that's also okay. I'm not selling any feature stores, so I don't get any direct benefit out of this. But how can we get one? Well, you can either buy one or build one. So if you go down the buy path, there are multiple companies that you can reach out. Google GCP, as part of Vertex, they provide a feature store. Databricks, HTO do the same. SageMaker also has a feature store. Tecton is a company that provides solely feature store solutions. The founders were actually one of the main initial contributors to Uber, Michelangelo, their end-to-end ML platform, so they know what they're doing. What are the benefits of buying one versus building one? Well, overall, it can be time and cost efficient. It's less complex. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Your team doesn't have to build it. So it requires fewer resources, as the vendor takes care of the maintenance of the feature store and thinking about how they can further develop it. Also, in some cases, the vendors provide 24/7 support if that's important for your business. And lastly, I guess you can focus more on tasks that are directly linked to your company's vision. However, there are a lot of companies that build a feature store internally. Airbnb built one of the first feature stores. I think it's called Koupanou nowadays. Same with Uber. Uber built the mother of feature stores as part of their Michelangelo ML platform. And then a lot of other big companies followed. Meta have their own version. I think it's called Facebook Learner. Spotify has Jukebox and so on. So why should someone go down the building route? Well, there is no vendor lock. Nowadays, there are also a lot of open source libraries that you can use, so you can have like a head start. In addition to this, if in certain cases, if your data stack is very complicated, or you need to meet any special requirements due to regulations or special client needs, it might be easier to create a more tailored solution. Because you can prioritize the roadmap items of a feature store. And yeah, but like there are pros and cons in both ways. There is no right or wrong answer. It depends on the company needs. We chose to buy advanced features or functionalities instead of building internally a feature store ourselves. This gives us more time and resources to focus on our company's mission, which is to help companies grow their brand and business. And how do we do that? By creating and using correctly and appropriately ML features in our ML and AI applications at scale and in real time when needed. Thank you very much for your attention. Remember, don't be afraid to make huge moves. If you want to keep in touch, feel free to connect with me on various platforms. I'll let my details here.